Welcome to the 52-7 Alliance. We haven't done a whole lot of these videos, but Russ Anderson joins me. And Russ, we have something rather important to discuss in light of the times in which we live, and that is influence. Seems like everybody is being pulled this way or that way by various influences. But a question that you and I need to explore starts with whether or not we each have influence. And if we do, what does it mean? What does it look like? How should we best use it? First of all, give me your thoughts on why this is a conversation that should even be taking place right now.
Why it should be taking place?
Mhm.
Is that what I heard? Well, because all of us do have a voice and we all have some influence to some degree. And the real question is, how do we use that influence wisely? How do we raise our voices appropriately? Because it's going to impact somebody, starting with our families and those around us, our loved ones, and everywhere we go, we do have a voice.
I like that you use the term using it wisely. And I don't know who said this first, but the best definition I've ever heard of leadership is a person is a leader who is using his or her influence wisely wherever they happen to be standing.
Yeah, it's hard to agree with that or to disagree with that, Brian, because leadership is more about stewardship, not ownership. Nobody owns another person, so we need to look at it from that perspective, I think.
And unfortunately, there are people out there who have influence, who've discovered they have influence, but are using it in ways that create either more anger, more division, or more fear. And at the 52-7 Alliance, we are trying to take a very different path, not because, hey, we have all the answers and we're all that, but simply because we understand there is a different way to go about this. And I don't think I'm speaking out of turn if I say we feel called to invite others to explore that other way. And I hope that what we have to talk about in this short video will help people reevaluate the type of influence they have. Now, the first thing I want to address is there's a false modesty that keeps a lot of people from embracing leadership like that. And it sounds something like this. Well, I'm just me. I'm just a heart surgeon, or I'm just a professor of psychology. No, but you know what I'm saying? I'm just such and such. I really have no influence. So I'd like to present an experiment that anyone can do. And this is it. Next time you find yourself in a gas station, the next time you find yourself at the counter of the convenience store, talk to the cashier. This is assuming you didn't go to self-checkout, but talk to the cashier and look at the candy bars, the impulse items right there at the cash register and say, "Oh, they all look so good. I can't decide." And then ask the cashier, "Which one is your favorite?" And when they tell you, "Well, I like, M&Ms," grab that, buy it, and then hand it to them and say, "You're doing a great job," and walk away. Now, I know people go, okay, so I'm wasting good money to try to what? Make somebody happy? You're not wasting that money and you're not wasting that effort. You are making someone happy. You're recognizing them, but more importantly, you're using influence in a way that we all have, but very few people would think to use. Does that seem silly? Does that make sense?
I love that experiment. Um, Maybe even ask them, do you like the green ones as much as I do? But give them that's really validating them as a person, I think, because you listen to them and you're coming together and you're letting them know that they're important and that their value and contribution in the service and job that they're providing actually meant something to you, even if it was on a 50 cent level. It meant something. That's all you have
Exactly.
to spend.
And that's the point here is whether it's big or whether it's small, that influence is real. And something as simple as that can actually brighten a person's day. I mean, they may be floating for a couple of days afterwards that someone treated them with kindness. And it points to a larger amount of power that we have. And I'm going to borrow from a real heavyweight. That would be Alexander Solzhenitsyn. In his book, The Gulag Archipelago, he talks about some of the things he thought about as he's laying there in the gulag, trying to sleep on rotting straw and being tortured and deprived of sleep and beaten and starved. And he's in some of the most miserable circumstances ever. but he's having some of the deepest clarity that a person can have. And one of the things that came to him is he says, eventually it came to me that the line that divides good and evil does not travel between nations or borders or political parties. He says it's a line that goes straight through the center of every human heart. And he says every one of us has that line, and it oscillates as we live our lives. And there are some times I think of, when I'm in traffic and someone does something really rude to me, that line oscillates in a not very good direction. What a jerk, but we have control over that. And his point was simply this: you may not be able to prevent evil from entering the world in some wholesale way, but we can certainly prevent evil from entering the world through us. And the corollary to that is we can also bring light, we can bring encouragement, and we can bring hope, even if it's in small ways, but very real ways, by assessing which side of that line we're on. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of what you're talking about in fostering a better cultural and human relations is to speak the truth graciously. We can be gracious when we're sharing our ideas of truth with each other. And just thinking here, Martin Luther King Jr., he said, "Our lives begin and end the day we become silent about the things that matter."
Amen.
And yeah, to be gracious with each other.
And I think at some point, a lot of us wake up to the understanding we do have influence, but we don't want to be pushy, or we don't want to come off as I'm trying to take charge. And actually, I think you had some really good thoughts on when it comes to being a leader and when it comes to wielding influence. It's really not about commanding people, is it?
No, not at all. It's uh, again more about stewardship and not ownership. And we can look at it too as how we build that trust with each other. Is trust is built in drops, but when we lose it in buckets. You just take that bucket of trust and dump it out. Think about uh, here's an example. You remember Scully Sullenberger, the pilot who landed the U.S. Airways flight on the Hudson River,
Yes.
and I mean, he was an old guy. He must have been like 52 or something. um, but a lot of people is a miracle on the Hudson, but it wasn't luck. Yeah, I think he had some extra guidance, but he was right on it as he was going. And that was the culmination of years and years and years of training and experience and time in a simulator. And those little decisions that we make day by day prepare us for the moment when people could need us most.
I like that. That's a great example of we don't know when that moment's going to come, but we should live our lives in such a way that if we're called upon to step up and to lead, we know how to do so, and we're doing it not from a you do this, you do that, barking orders at people kind of way, but we are people are looking to us because they know they can trust what we say or what we ask of them, because they've observed in our own lives that this is a person that is steadfast and that I know is grounded in reality and in truth. Just out of curiosity, have you ever seen the movie 10,000 BC?
I don't think so. That doesn't really ring a bell. 10,000
It's
BC.
it's been around for probably about 20 years. It's a great movie, and I'm going to recommend it just for one or two lines in the whole movie. It's a good story, but there's basically a caveman is going to teach you a little bit about influence. And the backstory is this: you've got a couple of friends, prehistoric friends, growing up together, hunting woolly mammoths and that sort of thing. And the tribe faces this impossible challenge when a more advanced civilization comes to their area and kidnaps and enslaves most of their people. And this young man becomes the leader of what's left of his tribe, and he struggles with doubts about what can I do to free these captives. And his best friend explains the choice that's before him. And this is what he tells him. He says, a good man draws a circle around himself and cares for those within, his woman, his children. Other men draw a larger circle and they bring within their brothers and sisters. But then he tells him some men have a great destiny. They must draw around themselves a circle that includes many, many more. And then he reminds him, your father was one of those men. You must decide for yourself whether you are as well. So when you put it in that context, we all have a circle of influence, but more importantly, we also have the ability to magnify that influence if we choose to do so. Um, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, the thought that immediately comes to mind there is you're talking about generational influence, I think, right?
Yes.
That what is taught has the ability to span generations. And today in our culture, we see millennials and Gen Z are actively pushing for innovation, while us boomers and Gen X bring to the table hard won wisdom. And when all sides within our culture and our organizations thrive, then the legacy to empower the younger generations will they'll have the freedom to reinvent in an environment that makes sense and that we all can be happy with, and also that influence across the generations will heal and not divide. And I think that's really important. That's what we need right now is a good period of healing to the extent that's possible.
I like that you brought up that there's potential to divide or potential to heal. And the reason I'm happy you brought that up is because there are counterfeits out there to influence. And the greatest proof I could provide of that is, what do we call people who go around doing crazy, outrageous things on social media for the sake of likes and clicks and follows? What are they called?
Well,
Influencers.
yeah,
That's, I mean, that's how
and
they build
trolls.
themselves.
Yeah,
But but what they're really doing is they are creating and celebrating status. And that's not the same thing as influence. We see them sometimes, those terms used interchangeably, but they're very, very different. Status is much more concerned with, how do others see me? What's my standing compared to others? Do I have more followers than you do? Well, then I must be better than you are. Or if I don't have as many followers as you, I must be less than you are. Influence doesn't care so much what people think of us. It's more focused on developing whatever capacity we have a positive effect on others. Status tends to poison how we see others because it's very competitive. Influence is about building and lifting and encouraging.
yeah, absolutely. I think the word that came to mind when you were talking about the influencer, the click seeker, is that one word is priestcraft, and that's not who we really want to be. It's not about us. It's about the other people that we can reach and help and have them come to their own conclusions and live their lives according to their own agency. That uh, too many people today, it seems like, want to be told what to do instead of just being willing to stand up and take the hard line and do the hard work to be what they want to be.
Well, and it also has a tendency to derail us from our own personal development when we're seeking the approval of other people, or that's what really matters to us. What do people think of me? Um, Suddenly, whatever message or whatever light we have to share with the world becomes a secondary consideration. Whereas when we're really focused on being a positive influence, we focus on the message. We don't really care so much what other people think of us, because that's not why we do what we do. And to me, the beauty of it is the status that's built on what you drive, what you earn, how many followers you have, that's all very temporary. None of that stuff is forever. And even good looks. I mean, you know more about this than I would, but even good looks won't last forever. Look at how many, movie stars, are this plastic surgery enhanced bizarre version of themselves because they just can't let go. But this is all I have. It's my, it's my everything. And none of it sticks around forever. The fame, the fortune, the status is all a temporary thing. However, influence, as you described as a stewardship, leaves impact. And that is something that lasts a long time. I mean, maybe it's not too soon to use the example, Charlie Kirk. He only lived to 31 years of age, but what he did with his influence was not about building a monument to himself. It was about helping to inspire and open hearts and minds of young people to to consider that maybe there was a better way to see the world than what they were being told, either from their college instructors or the media, and look at the influence that we see that he's had, even after he is gone.
Yeah, that totally resonates with me, Brian. And I think what you're describing there too is legacy, and that legacy is the influence that outlives each one of us, and that's where we really want to be. And that's one thing that if there was a takeaway from our discussion today is that leadership is less about what we achieve for ourselves and more about the legacy of love and affiliation that we leave for others. And that's just moving on. It heals divisions, strengthens families and workplaces and communities, and overall that strengthens our culture. So that leadership is really about the legacy that we want to leave.
And the cool thing about it is, it's an intangible in the sense that it's not money, it's not clothing, it's not bars of gold or anything like that. But I believe that a person does take, that the relationships that they've built, the lives that they've touched, I believe that that continues on into whatever comes after this life. And there are people who I look forward to looking in their eyes someday in the halls of eternity and thanking them, for the influence that they had in my life. They weren't thinking about me when they did what they did. I'll use Sophie Scholl, for example, the young girl who was part of the White Rose movement in Nazi Germany and went around distributing leaflets telling people, stop supporting this madman. She and her friends were caught, they were tried, they were executed very quickly. But when asked, why did you do what you were doing? And for all their faults, the Gestapo were very good note takers. So we have word for word what her conversation with her interrogator was. And her answer was somebody had to make a start. Many people believe this way, but they're too afraid to do something. And so the challenge I would issue is somehow, whoever you are, and under whatever circumstances you're seeing this video, you have the opportunity to make a start as well. And if you need clarification, there's a higher source. You can always ask to get that clarification, but it's time to think about how can we magnify our influence in ways that build and lift. Any
Mhm.
final thoughts?
Yeah, I do, and that just makes so much sense because each of us need to recognize that we do have a circle of influence, whether it be big or small, and we get to choose every day whether we use it to lift, as you just put it, or to tear down. So I think my challenge echoes what you just said is the challenge is very simple that we choose to lift.
And one of the greatest things you can do, I learned this by experience, is when you are interacting with other people, if you find yourself feeling the need to win, to conquer, to dunk on them, or at least put them in their place, like in an online discussion, I see this all the time. When you lose the need to win and you speak to people with you speak truth, but you speak it with love, and then allow them to come to the truth at their own pace, marvelous things happen. And it doesn't happen immediately. It's usually something that takes some time, but it's hard to describe how rewarding it is when someone approaches you sometimes years later and says, you've impacted me positively in this way. And you start to realize all the stuff that you thought was maybe just, wasted effort in one ear, out the other, really wasn't. But a lot of it depended on what was motivating you. If it was about dominating that other person, that motivation wasn't coming from a good place. If, like you say, it was to lift and inspire others, run with it and then watch how the opportunities grow for that influence to be magnified.
Yeah, build that trust and influence, drop at a time, and don't risk losing it by the bucketfuls once you've got it.
Well said. Thanks for joining us here on the 52-7 Alliance. Russ, great to visit with you. Let's do this again.
Okay, I'll look forward to it. Thanks, Brian.